So welcome back to some more Grand Theft Auto Vice City. In this part, we will be completing the Paramedic side mission, and there's going to be 3 different hospitals across Vice City that you can use to get your hands on an ambulance, and sometimes even more than one ambulance per location. But I think the reason for that pile up right there was because I did a few laps around that area, so the game likely spawned in an ambulance for each time I went around that area, because it took me a little while to find that hospital. But either way, I'm not going to be using that hospital to do the paramedic mission at, or that one right there. I'm going to be doing the one that you see on screen right now, which is located here in Ocean Beach. And the reason why I'm doing it here is because I find Vice City East to be the safer location to be doing this at, and also because it's an early game location. You actually do missions for Ken Rosenberg here in Washington Beach, which neighbors Ocean Beach, so you know, I just figure might as well do it for that. And some people like knocking out the paramedic mission very early on, which, you know, I'd actually recommend, because the reward for doing all 12 levels of the paramedic mission is that Tommy gets infinite sprint, and that is a fantastic ability to have at just about every point in this game. I can't really think of a situation where it wouldn't be, you know, a useful thing. So that's something to think about. Although, as you can see, we're doing this at the very end of our time playing Vice City, so it's not like infinite sprint is a super necessary thing to have in this game, but it's a nice thing to have. So with that being said, the way that this paramedic mission works is that you're going to have X amount of patients to pick up for whatever round you're on. So for round 1, which we've just completed, we had 1 patient. For round 2, we had 2 patients. For round 3, 3 patients, and so on and so forth, all the way up until what you're seeing right now, which is round 12, in which we have 12 patients. So you kind of gotta be a bit strategic in how you want to pick up these patients, which, you know, I know it's just a rinse and repeat process throughout all of these rounds, which is why I cut out rounds 2 through 11, because I just think it would be redundant showing it off, you know, because it's just the same thing over and over again. But there is a bit of strategy in that you want to get the patients that are furthest away from the hospital that you're doing this mission at, and you also have to think about how the ambulance only has 3 seats available to pick up patients, so you're going to have to make trips back and forth between the patients and the hospital. So, you know, you might want to focus on gathering groups of these people all at once, rather than going to the furthest one and then the next furthest one. I mean, if there's a bunch of patients together lumped up in a group, then it might be best just to go for them and get them all at once and then bring them on over to the hospital. But whatever works for you, it really doesn't matter. I don't find this to be overly difficult. I find the most difficult aspect of this to be just driving around in the ambulance, because it's a very top-heavy vehicle, so it's like going around sharp turns and stuff. You know, it's like you gotta slow your load a bit, and you really can't do things like that like you would with a, you know, even an Admiral or something very common. It's like things like that don't exactly fly here, and, you know, I had a bit of trouble picking up this person. Damn perspective and all that, but, you know, either way, you get the idea. You kind of gotta slow your load a bit, and the game gives you enough time, as long as you're not crashing around the place too much, and that you'll have enough time to be able to drive a bit slowly, especially on the beaches, because man, there's a lot of bumps around there that you wouldn't exactly expect to be there. It's they're kind of hidden in a way. It's all camouflage. It's all just one big mesh of sand out there. But anyways, I've pretty much touched bases on everything I wanted to talk about for the paramedic mission, so at this point, we're just wrapping things up. And I did want to talk about one thing that's unrelated to the paramedic mission, but is something that really hit me while I was doing it, and it's that the pedestrians in this game really don't have that great of dialogue, especially in comparison to 3 and San Andreas. I know in 3 you had like this endless sea of dialogue, just that was hilarious. It's like you had the pedestrians that would say, "My mother's my sister," and "I don't know where I am and I'm hungry," and things like that. And it's like the paramedics were also hilarious themselves, like the ones that would arrive at the scene of the death of whoever got ran over or shot at or whatever, and they would come and like sing Flashback FM and stuff, and they'd have one-liners too, like the other pedestrians. But even the paramedics that would be walking in front of the hospitals across Liberty City were funny in their own right, because they were like overly flamboyantly gay for some reason. And one of them would say, "Just say ah," when they like bump into somebody or something. It's just, there are those little hidden gems, and I think that paramedic pedestrian that walks around the city is a really underrated pedestrian. You know, people like to point out Brad or the Mafia or Triads, and it's just like those paramedics walking around the place, they're pretty funny people themselves. So yeah, I'd recommend just walking around the place in Grand Theft Auto 3, loading that up and just listening to the pedestrians, because that in itself is pretty entertaining, just hearing what they have to say. I mean, all of them pretty much have something that's funny. But you really don't get that here in Vice City, and I know in San Andreas you get that with the pedestrians around Los Santos, especially in the cul-de-sac of Grove Street. I mean, those people are just hilarious. So anyways, that completes this part, the paramedic mission. In the next part we'll be saving some more lives by doing the firefighter mission. So until then, I will see you next time.